Well, this morning we are continuing our reading of the 4th chapter of the book of the prophet Micah as we make our way through this month of September. So let us hear now the 6th and 7th verses of the word of the prophet. In that day, says the Lord, I will assemble the lame and gather those who have been driven away, and those whom I have afflicted. The lame I will make the remnant, and those who were cast off a strong nation. And the Lord will reign over them in Mount Zion now and forever. I remember once, way back in elementary school, I know I've realized I've shared several examples of the wisdom of my elementary school teachers and lessons that I have learned over the years, lessons that have remained with me for so many years. But I remember one day when we had indoor recess. You probably remember that. If it's raining, if the weather is bad, instead of going outside to play, indoor recess, and all the games came out in the classroom. Well, as indoor recess would typically unfold, things would be all over the classroom. And so when recess was over, I remember distinctly my second grade teacher saying, well, when you make a mess, you clean a mess. And it was time to put everything back. We had made a mess, of course, in our good fun, but now it was time to clean up. I was reminded of this just 2 weeks ago when a regular visitor in our backyard appeared. That regular visitor is a very large black bear, and I happened to look out the kitchen window and I stepped onto the back porch, and there I saw this large bear indeed making a mess, tipping over the dumpster, pulling out the garbage, pawing through the garbage, and getting all of the garbage all over the backyard. The bear made a mess, but guess who had to clean up the mess? It certainly wasn't the bear, it was yours truly. When a mess is made, we have to clean up the mess. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not so easy. But that is the task with which we are faced under those circumstances. I know in my conversations in recent weeks with members of the church, I think there is a shared theme in our recent conversations, and that is we have made a mess. We have made a mess when we look at the world, and we are in a mess. You could imagine it's much like a classroom in the middle of indoor recess, or you could imagine the state of things is kind of like my backyard a couple of weeks ago when there was garbage all over the place. I think we all have that sense that we have made a mess. We have seen that. We talked about last Sunday the terrible, terrible mess isn't even the right adjective, the terrible, terrible, horrific event that occurred at Utah Valley University when political activist and commentator Charlie Kirk was murdered. We talked about the mess and the fallout from that mess. But we did so, interestingly, in the context of this 4th chapter of the book of Micah. And here we see evidence. Here we see evidence of the kind of mess that the people of Israel were experiencing. And we can see how easy it is for a mess to be made. For kids, it's so simple. Take out all the toys and play with them, have great fun with them, and everything is scattered all over the room. Or a bear pulls all the garbage apart. It's so easy. It's so easy to make a mess. But it's very, very difficult sometimes. It's very, very overwhelming sometimes to clean up the mess that we find ourselves in. Well, the people of Israel knew all about messes, national crises, religious upheaval. They knew what it was like to have everything turned upside down and to stand in the middle of a terrible, seemingly insurmountable pile of scattered debris. And we see that for us here in the prophet Micah. We have the people who have been driven away. We have those who have been cast off. We have those who have been discounted, those who are seemingly lost. They have been blown to the winds. But in the midst of that mess, the prophet Micah says, and it begins, verse 6, it begins wonderfully in that day, sometimes translated on that day, but a moment, a particular moment in time. We began this 4th chapter of Micah where the prophet says, in days to come, that our eyes would be lifted to the horizon with a sense that in days to come, something tremendous was going to happen. Now in verse 6, on or in that day, Micah has been directing the gaze of the people of Israel to the future, but now he is articulating what precisely is going to occur on that day, on the particular day for which the people have been yearning. On that day, this huge mess is going to be cleaned up. The scattering of the people, that time has come to an end. The afflicted will see their sufferings no more. The people who have been discounted, they will be gathered together. A nation of Israel in crisis is going to be transformed. And how is all of this going to occur? Here for Micah, we see a mess has been made. God's going to clean up the mess. Because the Lord, Micah says, is going to reign over the people in Zion. You have seen how mountaintops are so significant in the Bible. We have talked about incredible mountains over the years. Mountains as places where God is to be found in the Old Testament. Well, here, once again, the presence of God is going to be revealed on Mount Zion. Mount Zion, precisely where Moses discovered God. Mount Zion. The Lord is going to appear. The Lord is going to reign over the people from Zion, and the mess will be cleaned up. The restoration is going to happen. And everything that had been scattered, like toys in a classroom, like garbage in a yard, all of that's going to be put back together. We are living in a mess, undoubtedly. We are living in a time in which everything seems to be scattered. We are living in a time in which an idea, a thought of being as one seems to be the kind of hallucinatory dream that you cannot even imagine coming to pass. We live in a time in which we see the scattering of people is just a given these days, sadly. We live in a time in which the casting away of people seems to be a given, sadly, these days. But Micah reminds us, in days to come, it's not going to be so, because Micah says on that day, God is going to do something new. I once heard a pastor say, and this was one of the most challenging things that I think I have heard. It was so counterintuitive. The pastor once said that hope, while hope is good, it can actually stop us from being the people of God in the world. Now, wait a second. Typically, we think hope is the pinnacle. But he was saying, if we simply hope that something great is going to happen, we're going to sit back, we're going to cross our legs and fold our hands and say, oh, I'm hoping. I hope that something good is going to happen. But he said, and he had great experience working in impoverished areas, he said that hope in and of itself does not represent the fulfillment of the church's vocation. But he said rather that hope should be the engine, if you will. It should be the force, the power that moves the people of God to say, time to clean up the mess. Hope grants to us a vision of a day in which restoration is made possible. But hope divorced from mission is simply living in this world as a bystander. And I think one thing that we learn in the scriptures is that the people of God are not bystanders, but they have been given a revelation, they have been given a vision, they have been given a word to send them forth. It is a word of hope, but it is and should always be a word of hope that lights a fire beneath the people's feet to go and to be animated and to take what one has received and to translate that into ministry. And I say into ministry because as Baptists, we understand that the ministry is shared amongst the people of God. So we can step back and we can say, yes, we are in a mess. We are in a terrible mess right now. But we have a vision of a time in which that mess is going to get cleaned up. On that day. We have that vision. Now, for the people of Israel, for the prophets, for the community that Jesus draws to himself, it's not simply, great, I've got that vision, and I'm just going to sit back and wait for that day to come. I'm good. No. We have that vision, and it is a vision that moves us, that animates us, that lights that fire beneath our feet, that gives us confidence, that gives us a sense of ministry, that gives us a sense of witness. Do you remember the disciples after Jesus died and after his ascension? Do you remember the disciples? They really were cowering in a sense out of fear, out of trying to figure out what exactly was going on. But then, when the Spirit came on Pentecost, and we see the flames dancing upon their head, suddenly their eyes were open. It was this vision from above. And the fire that was dancing on their heads then became a fire beneath their feet, and it became a fire within their hearts. And we see Peter now all of a sudden going out into the public square and preaching with confidence. It's like, is that Peter who was denying Jesus and then hiding in fear? All of a sudden, he's preaching with confidence? Because the vision, it came, and it was that day for Peter. A flame on his head, a flame beneath his feet, and a flame within his heart, and it was time to clean up the mess. I think this is what Micah is talking about. I think this is what the scriptures are teaching us. Look to the future. In days to come, something wonderful is going to happen. On that day, it will certainly, hopes will be fulfilled. But between that day and where we are today, there is a vision that animates. There is a vision that empowers. There is a vision that grants to us a confidence that we never imagined. And there is a vision that gives us a voice that we never discovered, words that we could not imagine uttering, a witness that we thought we could never bear. But this is what Micah is talking about. This is precisely what the prophets are calling to the people of Israel. Lift up your gaze to the future. See what is coming. Be moved by that vision. Live towards it. Grow towards it. Go into the mess. Bear that witness. Minister. Share good news. Commit yourself to acts of goodwill, acts of forgiveness, promises of reconciliation. Grow into that vision. Let's clean up the mess together. Let's not say, I can't bear to look at it anymore. Let's look at it. Let's face the mess head on, and like the kids in my classroom, let's pick up the mess, let's clean everything up, and let's get started for the next class. Or like me in the backyard, let me get a big garbage bag and let me gather everything up and clean it all up. Let's face it. Let's not shy away from it. Let's be able to say, yeah, things are a mess. We can say it, but we don't hide from it. We can say it, and we can look beyond it. We can say it, and we can move into it, move through it, and bear witness to what Micah says is going to happen. Remember, on that day. Amen.